Okay, let's talk about thumbnails. So there's a couple of rules when it comes to thumbnails. The first one that I tell people, and I think the majority of YouTube creators get this wrong, and this is why they don't get any views, this is why their videos don't go viral, etc. The reason is because they're making their thumbnails after they make their video. They create their video, they write the script, they have the voiceover, and then they create the thumbnail to match the video, which is wrong. The right way to do it is to make the thumbnail first and the title. It's to build the video around the thumbnail and title. Me personally, I always create the thumbnail first, and then I come up with the title, and then I write the video after. The reason is because the thumbnail is the door to the video. If nobody knocks and opens the door, they're not going to view your video. It doesn't matter if your video is the most revolutionary documentary that's ever been created in the history of the world, and that took 10 years to create, and you've interviewed millions of people and traveled to 100 different countries, and it's a documentary that will blow the minds of every living person on this planet. It doesn't matter if it's that good. If people don't click on the thumbnail, if they don't open the door, they're not going to view your video. You're going to get no views or very little views. So we always want to make sure that our thumbnails come first. The creation of our thumbnails come first, and then the title, and then the video. But of course, we want to get an idea of what we want to make the video around. And from that idea, we craft the thumbnail, then the title, and then the video. So the thumbnail, in my opinion, is the most important part of the whole YouTube process. So when people scroll YouTube, they're looking to elicit certain emotions. They're looking for different ways to create a dopamine rush within their brain. There's 4 emotions that people look for subconsciously and consciously when scrolling YouTube. Those emotions are curiosity, fear, desire, and humor. Now, people click on these thumbnails because it does elicit a certain emotion within them. People naturally gravitate towards pictures that elicit certain emotions on YouTube or anywhere across the internet or in life in general. We're biologically hardwired to respond to certain external stimuli in our environment, and YouTube thumbnails are no different. While we scroll social media, our eyes are attracted to certain things depending on their nature, arrangement, color, and how they make us feel. And like I said, this extends beyond social media, beyond YouTube, into the external world that we live in. When we see things on billboards or advertisements on TV or certain clothes that people wear, certain things that entice our senses, we get excited and we get a dopamine rush, and it becomes a part of our existence. The 4 main emotions that the majority of us feel during our time on YouTube and other social media sites are curiosity, fear, desire, and humor. Now, mind you, there's other emotions as well, but in my opinion, these are the 4 main emotions that we feel. We subconsciously look for these cues and or emotions as we scroll. It's an unconscious act that we do, that we're biologically wired to do as we carry on our day. If we find a certain thumbnail that creates that emotion within us, we're much more likely to click on it. And again, 4 emotions. And please remember this. These are very important. Curiosity, fear, desire, and humor. So the 4 emotions are extremely important. And now let's take a look at exactly what they are. Let's dive into the 4 emotions a little bit deeper and cover some example thumbnails of those that elicit them. Okay, the first emotion that we're going to cover is curiosity. And in my opinion, this is the strongest emotion out of the 4 that makes people want to click on a thumbnail. So humans are naturally curious because it helps us survive, learn, and connect with others. Curiosity has evolved as a trait that promotes exploration, problem solving, social interaction. It allows us to adapt, grow, and share knowledge. It's a fundamental drive that keeps us engaged and helps us make sense of the world around us. And YouTube thumbnails are a curious doorway into the world of what's behind it. Properly designed thumbnails are a very strong trigger to the human curiosity. And of course, here's some examples. Now, we're relying on the human psyche the psychology of the human mind. And for all of history, since humans have been around, we've always been curious creatures, whether that's good or whether that's bad. It's totally up to the person on an individual basis and the circumstance. But in the case of YouTube, it's a very good factor determining whether people will want to click on the video or not. This thumbnail is a perfect example. So this brings out a sense of urgency 5 minutes ago. Well, 5 minutes ago, what? It makes the people curious. It makes them think and wonder exactly what's happening. Not only do they read this, which is the first thing they see, they look at the highlights on the thumbnail, and it also makes them wonder. But not only that, there's a split screen, which shows a before and it shows an after. And a lot of successful YouTube creators do this. They have a split screen, which shows the before and the after, whether it's a galaxy, whether it's a person on one end and then the person falling over on the other end, showing that there's a certain set of events that are going to happen in the video. It keeps people wondering and makes people want to click, and they get excited about it. This next one is a good example. Using arrows to point at a certain aspect of the thumbnail draws the viewer's attention and makes them wonder. So the first thing that you see when you look at this thumbnail is the arrow. And then when you follow the arrow, you see that it's some sort of river in the desert. And me personally, this makes me wonder, like, well, what's in the river? Is there some sort of creature? Is there a story behind this? And it makes me want to click. It's very simple. A very simple thumbnail, yet very effective. Showing old or unknown items is a very good way to entice people to click your thumbnail. And I see this a lot. And I'm sure you see this a lot too on YouTube, where people show old items like this, rare items that people don't normally see on a day-to-day basis. Because again, this invokes curiosity within people. Another example would be this. Being ambiguous allows the viewer's imagination to run wild, causing their curiosity to peak. Try it once. Well, try what once? Try what? Like, I want to know. I want to bring my battery from 0 to 100. Try once and you'll do it every day. This is a perfect example of a thumbnail that invokes the curiosity within people. So the next emotion we're going to cover is fear. People are drawn to scary things because they provide a thrilling experience, triggering adrenaline and excitement. Now, this not only applies to the YouTube world, but it also applies to things like amusement park rides, where we ride that roller coaster even though we're scared of it, or we watch that scary movie even though we're terrified of Chucky, because we know that we're secure, we know that we're in a safe environment, and that it's a controlled release of adrenaline. The controlled exposure to fear in a safe environment allows individuals to confront anxieties and enjoy the suspense and unknown, making scary experiences popular entertainment. Many YouTube thumbnails across the platform are specifically designed to elicit the fear response within people. This is a very popular way amongst viral YouTubers to get more viewers to click. And this is very true. Like a thumbnail like this, which says this is poisonous. I mean, we all know that cashews are not poisonous. Not only does this invoke a little bit of fear within us, it also invokes curiosity. So this is doing twice the work. This thumbnail contradicts popular belief. It makes people believe that an ordinary food item is in fact poisonous. And again, we all know that cashews are not poisonous, but we want to find out. Showing an unreasonably large animal or object next to the everyday objects entices the viewer's curiosity. The contrast between the boats and this monster's eye it's something that I definitely would want to click on all day. The human mind reacts very strongly to warning symbols and signs. It makes us feel like we should absolutely know something. And this is a perfect example. I think this next one is very self-explanatory. We will not survive this. And it does elicit that fear response within us. And we want to know because we're scared for our lives. And most of us know that it's just a thumbnail. It's just a picture. It's just entertainment. But we're curious. And maybe some of us are scared. So we click on it. We want to know what we will not survive. Okay, guys, let's talk about the third emotion. And that's desire. So naturally, people are drawn to YouTube thumbnails that promise fulfillment of desires such as sex, material wealth, physical improvement, emotional connection, social acceptance, adventure, and success. These thumbnails offer pathways to satisfying fundamental human needs and aspirations. And again, this goes back to the basics of human psychology. We're all hardwired to want to experience a certain amount of desire in our life. It captures the viewer's attention by tapping into their deepest desires. Our brains are hardwired for these types of experience. It's built in our neural network. It's built in our brains to want to experience certain types of desire. So this first thumbnail is a very effective one because it elicits the desire of financial freedom. And a lot of us want to know what $100 million looks like. And we love cars and we love objects of luxury. So the way that he did this is he put $100 million on the top. This is the first thing that we see, probably. And then we see the Bugatti, then we see the Lamborghini and the price tags. And this makes us want to click because not only are we curious, but this invokes a desire response within us. Who wouldn't click on this? Showing small, cute animals in thumbnails, I think, is one of the most effective ways of getting people to click because there's something built inside of us that just loves cute things, cute animals, cute children. I think it's like a parental instinct within males and females to want to engage with things that are cute and want to see things that are cute in general. So this is another perfect one. If you have a channel based around animals, or if you have a channel based around parenting and small children and raising small children, I think these thumbnails are very, very effective. Okay, the next one, well, self-explanatory, obviously. And this works both ways because if you're attracted to females, you're going to click on this for obvious reasons. But if you're female, you're also probably going to click on it because, I mean, who wouldn't want a booty like hers if you're a female? Fantastic, fantastic thumbnail and a perfect example of someone who utilized this correctly. So this thumbnail is especially effective for YouTube because the majority of YouTube viewers are in fact male. I think the ratio is something like 90-10 or 85-15 males to females. But YouTube, in fact, is predominantly male. And what he did was he showed a before picture and an after picture and put the title "Actually Works." When people see this, it invokes a feeling of trust. It invokes a feeling of desire. Yes, if you're overweight, who wouldn't want a six-pack? Who wouldn't want to look like this? Who wouldn't want to be like this to attract the opposite sex or whatever you're into? Perfect example. I just want to reiterate that, of course, there are many more emotions that people feel as they are on YouTube. As they're scrolling the YouTube homepage, there's many more emotions that they feel. But these 4 emotions are the main ones that make people click. So, humorous YouTube thumbnails catch people's eyes because they promise fun and laughter. They often have funny pictures or clever captions that make viewers curious and eager to see more. These thumbnails appeal to our love of humor and entertainment, making us want to click and watch for a good laugh. All of us need some sort of escape from the real world, and a lot of us do it through laughter and comedy. And let's be honest, people are stressed. People have jobs, they have bills to pay, they have a family to raise, and sometimes life is hard. Sometimes life's not easy, and we need a good laugh in order to forget about our real world problems and just feel good inside. And, this is a great way to make people feel good. So the humor emotion is one that I think that you should rely on heavily if this is your type of style. As soon as I saw this thumbnail, I clicked on it immediately. I think I was on a Zoom call and I was scrolling YouTube at the same time, and it was a little bit rude, but I clicked on it anyways because it elicited such a strong emotion within me. I wanted to know how he got like that, how he ended up hanging on the fence. So using inconvenient situations is a good way to get people to click in your thumbnail, like stuck in water, stuck in snow, stuck in the washing machine, etc. It's fun and exciting to us because we know it's not us and we get to watch it from a third person's perspective and be entertained. Most people would, in fact, click on this video because, let's be honest, it's a fat man going down a very, very thin slide, and I kind of want to see how this turns out. you know this video is going to be funny in some way, shape, or form. The thumbnail is actually telling the story. It's telling you exactly or probably what's going to happen in this video. And again, another very, very effective thumbnail. Yeah, again, it's self-explanatory, and man, I kind of want to see her hit the water. I want to see what sound it's going to make when she hits the water. And I got to be honest, I clicked on this video in less than 2 seconds. So again, another one that's very effective. So let's take a look at thumbnails that are not successful on YouTube. And if the guy or the girl who made these thumbnails is watching this, I'm sorry. I just really had to use your thumbnails as an example of what not to do when making proper thumbnails for YouTube. So each one of these videos are about 1 to 2 years old, and they all have 10 views a piece or less than 10 views a piece. They're plain. They have no context. They have too much going on. The colors are not bright, and there's no strong contrast to draw attention to the viewer's eye. Do not be like these creators. You can do way better. Now, one of the reasons why this creator might have uploaded these types of thumbnails, which are actually just various still pictures from the video, is because they did not enable a feature on YouTube that allows them to upload custom thumbnails, but we'll go over that later in the future. This one, for example, there's no colors, there's no contrast. The guy is super, super small down here. Like, you can't tell, what is he holding? Is he holding a hot dog? Is he holding a rocket launcher? Nobody can tell. And the background is extremely dull. There's no contrast, there's no colors, no brightness going on anywhere. This one has a little bit of color with the grass, but it's like, what is it? There's a minivan, an RV, and then there's a guy with a backpack, but he's extremely small. You can't see him, especially if you're scrolling YouTube, especially if it's somebody who's scrolling YouTube, who's also looking at the TV and also looking at their iPad. So these are very, very bad. These are great examples of what not to do on YouTube. The same thing with this one. Like, what is this? Is that a plane? Is that a tow truck? I don't know. You have to really look close. And most people are not going to stop and zoom into your thumbnail and look. They're just not. It's a waste of their time, and they have better things to do. So let's make sure that we do not make thumbnails like this, that we actually upload our... Okay, thumbnails that win, thumbnails that actually get clicks. These are perfect examples. They're beautiful. They're colorful. They have great contrast. They're easy to understand. Now, when I say easy to understand, what I'm talking about is it's easy for the subconscious mind to pick up on the cues of these thumbnails when they're scrolling YouTube. So whether people scroll YouTube slow or they scroll it really fast, these types of thumbnails always, or more times than not, will catch the attention of viewers because they follow the rule of thirds, they follow the colors and contrast rules, they have viral fonts, and it's just a certain type of arrangement and context within the thumbnails. And these are very, very good examples. Like Mr. Beast always kills it when it comes to thumbnails. One of his main attributes that he uses is gold. He has gold cars, gold planes, gold houses, and apparently in this one there's a gold water slide and a gold Ferris wheel. And the quintessential Mr. Beast face with his smile, that's a big one that attracts people. Here's another one. Very simple, very colorful, very down to the point how time works, yet it's very mysterious and suspenseful and invokes the curiosity emotion within people. This one is another great example. Like, look at those balloons. Very, very eye-catching when scrolling YouTube. I immediately stopped on this thumbnail when I scrolled, and I was going a million miles an hour. This one caught my eye instantly. So let's try to model our thumbnails after these, at least at first. Maybe after you build a little bit of an audience and a little bit of a viewership, then you can start getting a little bit more creative with your thumbnails as far as implementing your own style and different things that you want to add in your thumbnail or that you want to talk about or bring forth to your viewers. But at first, let's try to mimic and model exactly what works for the majority of these creators. In today's fast-paced world, People are always in a hurry, scrolling through their phones and devices as if there's no tomorrow. And I'm no exception. I do the same thing. I mindlessly scroll my phone and I go extremely fast. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm looking for. I just scroll for the fun of it. Both kids and adults have shorter and shorter attention spans these days compared to, let's say, people that lived in the 90s or the 80s, or even in the early 1900s. Our attention spans nowadays are so short comparatively. We're bombarded with lots of visual and sound stuff every single day, which triggers something in our brains called dopamine, making us feel good. Now, dopamine is a neurotransmitter that is secreted when we feel certain emotions, elicited from desire or humor or curiosity and the like. When we're on YouTube, we get little bursts of dopamine as we scroll through different thumbnails. And the thumbnails that make us feel something and trigger the dopamine are always the ones we're more likely to click on. Thumbnails should be very simple. They should immediately be understandable by somebody who is mindlessly scrolling YouTube or someone who is half asleep. And let me reiterate this again. Let me repeat this because this is very, very important. It's a very crucial point. Thumbnails should be immediately understandable by someone who is mindlessly scrolling YouTube or someone who is half asleep, which means that while somebody is scrolling YouTube, their subconscious mind, which is the mind that runs behind the conscious mind, should be able to understand exactly what it's seeing on the screen. The conscious mind shouldn't have to step in and be like, okay, I see a gold water slide. I see the face of Mr. Beast. Therefore, it must be Mr. Beast at a water park. No, it should be immediately recognizable by somebody who is mindlessly scrolling, somebody who is operating on autopilot, which is what a lot of us do when we scroll YouTube or social media in general. They should create a clear and concise point as soon as the viewer lays his or her eyes on it. Now, there's a couple of rules when it comes to making thumbnails, and we've gone over those. It's the color contrast rule, it's the rule of thirds, it's the thumbnail text and the fonts. So thumbnails should have 4 to 5 items max. The reason this is important is because the subconscious mind cannot really pick up on 20 different things in the thumbnail view. It's easier for the human mind and brain to comprehend. So they should have bright, contrasting colors. There should be a clear message that's easily understandable, and they should have viral thumbnail fonts. Not only that, you should implement the rule of thirds and other methods that you've come up with and that you've developed through your own creativity. So keep it simple. Keep it very simple, but make it effective. Brightly colored and contrasting YouTube thumbnails are designed to stand out amidst a sea of content. The vibrant colors attract attention and stimulate the visual senses, while the high contrast enhances visibility and readability. This combination makes the thumbnails more visually striking and memorable, increasing the likelihood of viewers clicking on the video out of curiosity or interest. This expands not only throughout the YouTube world, but also into nature. And we've seen nature videos where it shows the mating habits of different animals, such as birds. And it's usually the birds with the brightest colors that have no trouble mating whatsoever because they attract the most attention. And human beings and animals alike usually find the brightest colors the most attractive or the most visually striking. We've all seen it before. YouTube is flooded with thumbnails that don't get any attention or clicks, mainly because they're not enticing or eye-catching. A lot of creators either have too much going on in their thumbnail, dull colors, or colors that don't contrast well with each other, making the viewer uninterested, like a gray versus a white, or a yellow versus an orange. Remember, you only have a second or two to make a good first impression because the attention span of people these days is very short, approximately 8 seconds to be exact. Now, discussing the attention span of people, we can actually talk about this subject for hours. But the bottom line is, it's not the 1980s or the 1990s anymore. Nowadays, In the days of TikTok and YouTube Shorts, people have very, very short attention spans. It's not only kids, it's adults as well. And we've seen people who have to have their phone out while watching the TV, while also looking at their iPad. And it's really quite interesting how the attention spans of people nowadays has gotten exponentially shorter than what it used to be compared to, let's say, 10, 20 years ago. So colors and contrast are a great way to make sure that the viewer is interested, make sure that the viewer gets excited, make sure that the viewer has an emotional connection to certain areas and aspects of your thumbnail, opening that proverbial door so that they can watch your. Now remember, again, we're going over all these rules for thumbnails, and you'll get it as you create thumbnails. As time passes, you'll get it, and it'll become easier and easier for you. But you have to remember that if people don't click on your thumbnail, they're not going to watch your video. It doesn't matter if your video is great and an epic video. It doesn't matter. If they don't click on your thumbnail, then nobody is watching your video. So we want to make sure that our thumbnails are very, very effectively designed. So this is the zoom out rule. Your thumbnail is going to be viewed not only on desktop computers, but also phones, tablets, smart TVs, and other platforms. You want to make sure that it attracts viewers no matter the size. The mistake that a lot of people make when making thumbnails is that they design them on a desktop computer with programs like Canva and Photoshop. And when they're satisfied, they immediately save the file and then upload it to YouTube or save it on their computer. And this is, of course, a mistake. The reason that it's a mistake, the reason why you should always implement the zoom out rule is because when people scroll on their phones, they're looking at thumbnails that are very, very small. So when you design a thumbnail on whatever program you use to design thumbnails with, you need to zoom out. Once you've zoomed out, you want to make sure that it's still easily readable, understandable, and that the colors and contrasts are still very noticeable, etc. Some creators actually design the thumbnail while zoomed out. That way, they know that no matter the place that the viewers see the thumbnail, it's still very attractive and clickable. And think about it. The majority of people who do watch your YouTube videos are probably watching them on a mobile device, like a cell phone or a tablet or something similar. So you always want to make sure that your thumbnails are very easily understandable, not only by somebody who is half asleep, but also somebody who's half asleep, mindlessly scrolling YouTube while doing it on their phone. So let's take a look at an example. Perfect example. This is a great thumbnail. First off, it's a great thumbnail because there's contrast with the background versus the guy. There's bright colors, week 1, week 8, viral fonts, bright colors. Perfect. Now, zoomed out, this is an example of probably what most people see on their phone, but smaller, or could be bigger depending on the phone size. So this is the design on the desktop. But when we design it again, there's always a zoom out feature, whether you're using Photoshop or Canva. We zoom it out to the 10% level or possibly more. Possibly zoom it out to where it's half of this size. Cut it in half and zoom it out. Zoom out as much as you can. So notice how the smaller zoomed out version is still readable and still conveys a clear and powerful message. And you want to do this with all of your thumbnails, with no exception. Another rule that I implore people to really think about is the clear corner rule. So on the YouTube platform, there's always a length marker down at the right-hand corner of the thumbnail. Whether you're on your phone or desktop, there's always the number down here. So you don't want to design your thumbnail with the text that is blocked off by this number. So always stay clear from adding a specific object or text in this general area. The last thing you want is a bunch of numbers covering the title, text, or object. And if you have an important object that conveys a message down here, it's going to get covered. So let's try to avoid that. Okay, viral thumbnail fonts. There are certain fonts that people tend to gravitate to. These fonts are easy to read, are recognizable across social media and elicit a certain emotional response from people. And going back to what we were talking about human psychology and thumbnails, this is a perfect example because across many different platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and other social media sites, you see these fonts scattered about, and people have certain memories and certain emotions attached to these fonts. There's something within them that wants to click on the video because certain fonts do elicit certain emotions from people. Your favorite YouTuber usually knows about these handful of fonts and utilizes them very carefully to make their thumbnails stand out from the rest. And these are Montserrat, Ariel, Bangers, Bebus, Anton, Open Sans, Atma, and Decalotite. And I do just want to say that, of course, there's thousands of different fonts on YouTube, but for some reason, these fonts work the best. And I highly encourage you to explore and practice and play around with different fonts and see what you can come up with, because there's no one font or no 8 fonts set in stone. I mean, there's a baseline of what has worked in the past, but please, by all means, experiment and have fun with it. Now, when you're scrolling the YouTube page, our eyes subconsciously and unconsciously are drawn to certain parts of a picture. So the rule of thirds is used by every popular YouTuber out there. It's a photography trick that involves dividing the image into 9 equal parts, 2 vertical lines and 2 horizontal lines, essentially creating a grid. Placing key elements like eyes and face and titles and different things in the thumbnail that you want people's attention to be drawn to, placing those along these lines or at their intersections often result in a more visually appealing and balanced composition. The principle translates to YouTube thumbnails because it helps create a visually harmonious and engaging layout, and we'll see why here in a bit. By applying the rule of thirds to thumbnails, you can strategically position important elements such as the main subject, text, or any other object along these lines or intersections. This not only enhances the overall aesthetic, but also guides the viewer's eyes to the focal points, making the thumbnail more compelling and easier to understand. So there is kind of a trick when it comes to this. By implementing the rule of thirds, you're essentially telling the viewer where to look. You're showing them exactly where on the thumbnail you want them to look. And wherever they look, there should be something strategically placed in order to help them make the decision to click. In YouTube thumbnails where space is limited, and this is an understatement, adhering to the rule of thirds can contribute to a well-organized and aesthetically pleasing design, increasing the likelihood that viewers will be drawn to you and click on your video. So remember what we discussed earlier. It doesn't matter if you have the greatest video in the world. If people are not excited about clicking on your video, if people don't open the door of the thumbnail to get into your video, they're never going to watch your video and you're never going to get any clicks, any views. So the rule of thirds, in my opinion, and quite frankly, in the opinion of a lot of popular YouTubers, is extremely important. So let's take a look at some examples. Two vertical lines and 2 horizontal lines. And you see how faces and eyes are placed directly over these lines. Mr. Beast knows exactly what this means. 2 vertical, 2 horizontal. Eyes are on the horizontal. Head and body is on the vertical. Same thing with this gentleman. Eyes or head is near and around the intersections or on the vertical and horizontal line. And also this thumbnail. Beautiful. It's perfectly done. Eyes are placed near or around the intersection. His left eye is placed on the vertical line. His face is placed at the intersection and on the vertical line and horizontal line. Same thing with this one. Even though we can't see his eyes, his head is placed around the vertical line and the horizontal line, leaving the center open and leaving the spaces up here open. These are perfect examples. This one is my favorite because the head takes up the entire thumbnail, and then you have an object right here with a lot of contrast and brightness. And then you have the text up here. It's very simple. And like I said before, Your thumbnail doesn't have to be complicated. It can be very simple, and usually simple thumbnails are the ones that get the most clicks.